Welcome to Behind the Play, a video and podcast product of The Hoop Show that explores the lives of Geelong players past and present, as well as the off-field figures that are keeping us Geelong strong. My name is Paul James, and today I have the great pleasure to speak to one of those present-day players that I was just talking about. Phoenix Foster, welcome aboard, mate.
It's great to be here. Thank you so much for having me.
As we were just saying before the show, thanks so much for carving a bit of time out of the day, I guess, to go behind the scenes. And I guess we're just retreading a little bit of ground that we just discussed. But the day itself, you had a half day of training, and there's a bit going on in your life at the moment. So thanks so much for giving us a little bit of your time.
No, all good. Probably when you asked me a bit earlier in the year, I was probably a bit busy, and you asked me the other day, I said, yeah, look, it's time to go on. It's time to carve out some time. So, cheers.
All credit to Ben, who does a lot of the heavy lifting on his side there and chats to people and gets them on board, and then I get to be the one that sits here on the other side of the camera getting to have a chat. So sucked in, Ben. So as we did touch on though, like half days of training, we are at an interesting point in the season. We're a bit tick over the halfway point. The Cats, the VFL team at the moment, right on the fringe when it comes to, I guess, in a very similar sort of spot to the AFL team at the moment as well, sitting kind of right on the fringe there of the top half of the ladder. So what is it like for you guys at the moment? I guess like you obviously with aspirations to potentially even grow above the VFL level and go another step higher, but at the same time, obviously every given week you want to put in your best effort and hopefully bring home the W for the team. So what's it like at the moment?
Yeah, I think it's a really funny point. I don't think, especially the AFL, haven't been in this position for a really long time.
Yeah.
However, I think we're not cruising. That's not the right word, but we're getting into a place where we know what we have to do to probably raise the intensity a bit at training, kind of to really turn the screws. For me the other day, it was a really big talking point. It's just going to turn the screws now. There's no more time left for us. Like, it needs to start happening now, and that's at both levels. I think, especially in the VFL, it's a bit bigger finals, 10 teams make it, but we want to play finals just as much as anybody else, and I definitely think we have the group to do it. Especially when the AFL side's at full strength. You've got a great amount of young talent on the AFL list that has to play VFL, and we definitely feel like we can play finals. I think the environment is, like it always is, it's pretty calm, relaxed professionalism, as they like to call it. I think it's really fun. It's been really good to come in the club the last couple of weeks. Really enjoying it. Training will probably heat up there a little bit this week with a bit longer break, which will be nice.
And is that in part because of this whole turning the screws sort of idea that you were just discussing? Is that part of it as well?
I think so, yeah. I think we want to really raise the intensity, really try and push each other. We know that if we give our best effort on the track, it'll be easier to replay that on the footy field on a Saturday. So I definitely believe we've got all the talent in the world, all the experience in the world to go and get it done, especially in the seniors. And in the VFL, I think we have enough youthful enthusiasm, and I think we have enough flair to really kick up a fuss in the finals.
Yeah, there's a lot of brilliant young talent in the squad and representing both on the AFL and the VFL side. So there's no reason why both teams can't be there. I mean, I guess as things stand on the VFL side, the ladder there, you're only one game out of the 8. There's a bit of a percentage difference at play as well. But in terms of raw wins and losses, there's only one game away. So and it only takes. Well, and because there's been a draw along the way, that makes it a little bit easier again in a sense. It takes the percentage concern out of it, unless it's Richmond you've got to contend with later on, given that they're the ones sharing the draw with you. But how's it been because obviously you're talking about the conversations going on, turning the screws and all those sort of things. But of course you don't necessarily have the same level of context because you haven't seen how they've done it. Say last year, for example, obviously a premiership team last year. So what have you noticed as someone who's still kind of new to this and is I guess not even aware 100% of how they went about things at the same time last year, for example?
Yeah, it's all very. I know it's new. It's just taking it all in, especially recently, with all this talk of like we need to really crack in, turn the screws, lift the intensity. I don't know what any of that's like. Like I'm still, when you get drafted, you're like it's going to be hard. Nobody knows what hard is until you get drafted and you actually feel it for the first time, what hard is.
And especially if they're using this language now, then that suggests it's about to get harder.
I'd be like, it's quite hard at the moment. It's quite difficult. well, now if we turn the screws, the intensity is going to lift. It's either you lift with it or you kind of sink. So I'm really excited. It only just means I'm probably going to get hit by more of the boys more. So do a lot more picking myself back up. I'm really excited. I think because it is all new. Pat's a great leader. Stu's a great leader. The senior boys, just in general, are really driving it at the moment. I know that I really look up to Mitch Duncan a lot. He was one of my favourite players growing up. So seeing him stand up in meetings, it's like your ears prick up and you really do take everything in. You hang on every word. So I think, I'd expect it to probably shift. You probably see in games the intensity shift maybe a little bit in the next couple of weeks. Just I'd expect better performances just all round, I think.
So I guess just you mentioned Mitch there, and obviously being someone that you looked up to when you were younger. So what was it about Mitch at the time?
I was a Gary Ablett Jr. mega fan growing up. So I think he left, and I did follow Gold Coast for a while. I'm not going to lie, it did happen. Not ashamed about it, but it wasn't a happy period.
I was certainly cheering for Gaz.
But 100%. Mitch is a bloke that he's just so smooth. Ever since day one, he's just been a smooth operator, just an elite ball user. I wasn't always so tall. I was a bit of a winger when I was younger before I decided to shoot up. So just the way he used the footy, was really appealing. He wasn't like bullish, like really in and under hard footballer. He could do it, but when he got the ball, it was just he had time, Pendlebury-like with his amount of time he had, and then he'd just find someone. And it's really funny that he only sits 3 or 4 lockers down from me, and I see him every day. And it's like that with a lot of the boys growing up. Your Hawks, Jeremy's, Pats, like Cam Guthrie's another one, like blokes that you feel like have been around for a really long time. So you've watched all your life, and now they're there. So it's cool. It really is. And Mitch especially, he probably doesn't know it, but I do look up to him a lot.
We'll make sure to pass this video on to him afterwards so that he can hear you foaming at the mouth. No, so I guess before we really hone in on your days as a AFL listed player, where did the love of footy first begin? I mean, as you said, you didn't always have the height as well, so maybe not necessarily the key position roles were on the cards early days. But where did this love of footy first begin? Was it always in the family?
Yeah, so my uncle Daniel played for Geelong back in the early 2000s, Daniel Foster. So,
of course.
The connection.
That never tweaked. I don't know why. Sorry.
The connection to Geelong is there, but I don't know. I've been playing football before I could walk. I always had a footy in my hands. It's growing up really remote in the country. Football is a way of life almost. It's farming, football, and that's about it. The girls play netball. Before I could walk, I have a photo on my mantle in my room of my dad winning a 2005 grand final, and I'm barely 1 year old sitting on his lap in the footy change rooms. Like
it's always there.
It runs really deep, and the passion and love I have for the game, especially at grassroots level in the country, is really strong. I love getting back to watch games when I can. My little brother's playing at the moment in the A grade at home, and I just love seeing him play at the level that I played at for a little while before I came to school. And it's always been there. I was tallish for a younger kid in the juniors. But then when I went up to play senior level footy for my local club, I wasn't very big, and I was pretty skinny, and I just ran around on the wing being a pest. And eventually I grew. By the time I was 16, 17, I was about the height I was now. So I was kind of like playing key position. You learn where you can't put your body pretty quickly against older blokes that are pretty rough and humble. Yeah, so I think the spatial awareness stuff really helps, and I've always been able to kick the ball pretty far, so that also did help a lot. So, honestly, I love such a passion and love for football. It always doesn't always love you back. It's a lot of hard work and it's pretty difficult, but it's why we keep coming back, I think.
What are some of the conversations like with Dad now that obviously like you've made the level and I think if I express what a lot of Cats fans are all thinking, and I'm sure you're hoping for as well, is that we're hoping that a debu's not too far away and that we get to see your straight stuff up on the big stage. But what are those conversations like with Dad in the meantime as you're building yourself up and you're talking? I mean, I'm sure there's a lot that has absolutely changed about the way the club does things since the days he was there in the early 2000s. So, yeah, what are some of those conversations like at the moment?
Well, so my uncle Dan is the one who played for Geelong. Sorry, sorry if I said Dad. My uncle Dan, yeah. Oh, so I talk to my dad probably 3 times a week. That's Matt. And it's a lot of football. Sometimes it's life. It's mostly football. Usually me ranting and raving about why I didn't get a kick or this, that, and the other. My little venting process.
Got to get it out of the system sometimes.
Yeah, you do. But he's great, and Mum's more of my emotional life side of things. I like to go to her, and yeah, I ring my parents. It's hard moving away from home. I was at boarding school for 3 years, so I do understand what it's like to move away from home, but it's very, very different. Being this far away, you're supposed to be an adult now, and yeah, the full-time job. But I still keep in contact with my parents a lot, and I ring Uncle Dan every couple of weeks. He's always watching. He was really pumped when he heard I was going down back. He's like, "Oh, that's really good. Like, I can really see it." And I was like, "Have you got any pointers for me, mate? I'm going to need them." So, yeah, I think having him as a resource and a contact and someone I can just lean on every now and then when he knows what it's like when it gets real hard, or if you're just feeling a little bit alone, a bit isolated. He's been great. Yeah.
So I guess let's start to build up towards actually draft time. So I guess depends on the listeners here as to what they do and don't know. But I mean, as touched on, move quite a distance. So you're in SA there playing Norwood, if I've got that right.
Yep.
For I guess to recap for people on the draft side, picked up with pick 52 to the Cats. But I guess what was that under 18s year like as you're strutting your stuff? And thankfully, at least in that comp, the bodies are all of a similar sort of age, and you maybe not quite as bash and crash as what you might have had to deal with elsewhere. But what was that whole window like just before you got picked up? And were the Cats on the radar for you?
A little bit. You have to go back to the start of the year, and I had one of my coaches tell me, Peter McIntyre, used to play for the Crows a long time ago. Love Pete. He's like, mate, it's right there for you. You can just go and get it if you really put your head down. And I wanted to play AFL footy. I didn't know how seriously I was going to take my Year 12 year. I was really content just to play some pretty average standard or pretty good under 18 footy and pretty good school footy. And then the words kind of resonated with me a lot. And from a kid, everybody wants to play AFL. And then he kind of said it was kind of doable. And I think that as soon as he made it doable in my head, I was like, nah, I'm going to really go after this. And sacrificed a lot, gave up a lot of the fun things you do in Year 12, not many birthday parties, none of that. And I think that's something every kid that gets drafted will, or even every kid who's trying to get drafted will relate to. The sacrifices you make to play at the highest level it's just part of the job. And then I think earlier in the year, I played a right, was playing really well up forward. Got played in front of the state coach a couple of times. He was just in the crowd, and he really liked what he saw as a kind of a second tall, second ruck kind of type for the state team. And I was lucky enough to get in, training really hard, a bit of a chip on my shoulder type thing. And Harry Barnett, who just debuted for the Eagles, was our number one ruck. He went down with COVID, and I played probably my best game of the year.
Good time for it.
Which was pretty handy in front of the likes of Mackie and Wellesley, and I must have done something right that day. So towards the end of the year, I was playing really well. I was probably the most consistent, dominant football I've been playing at school and at Norwood level. Just feeling really in control, really calm. Like get up out of bed and you're like, oh, I just gotta like. You never feel like you're going to play bad. You always felt like you were in control of who your opponent was and when the ball was coming, and it was a really amazing feeling. Got to the end of the year, didn't test at the combine, had a bit of a knee problem, still kind of lingering here and there. But I really do think I just charmed up Wellesley and Mackie really a lot in the in the interviews. I did
We'll
my
pass this on
best.
to them as well.
Yeah, I knew I wasn't testing, so I thought I better pull out all the stops and uh, yeah, get to draft night. A lot of my mates come back from schoolies. I didn't go. I was way too wrapped up in the draft, and I had
Don't blame me.
interviews that I won't even say I had a bit of FOMO. I was kind of just I was in my own world, in my own little bubble at home, trying to prepare. Um, yeah, and then get to draft night, and it's went down the pub on Tuesday night, not really expecting nor knowing what to expect. And my manager had told me it was going to be late. I didn't realise it was going to be like last 4 picks of the draft late, but I was expecting to actually go to Hawthorn at the pick before. And yeah, they picked someone else. And I remember Mum telling me later that she looked across the table and saw part of my soul just exit my body, kind of just leave. Like I'd seen a ghost, or my dreams have been shattered, and that's what it felt like. It's sort of I was hanging on the hope that Hawthorn were going to take me, and when it didn't happen, I was pretty shattered. Geelong come up on the clock, and I get a phone call a couple of minutes later from Matthias Philippou from St Kilda, and me and him were good mates at the time. And he's screaming and he's yelling. He's like, "Oh my god, oh my god!" And I'm going, "Mate, it's not funny. Like, you don't
Oh,
prank
of
call
course,
me
because
right
there'd be a
now."
little bit of a delay for you, whereas he's right.
Yeah. And I was like, "Oh, mate, whatever." I turn around and my name's on the screen and they're saying my name, and it's more of a feeling of relief and elation rather than just pure joy. It's, "Oh, I've done it. Like, it's gonna happen." It's so like the tears came and I got mobbed by my friends and my dad, and yeah, it's a moment you can only ever really feel at the really, really, really in special times in your life. I
Yeah.
hope everyone gets to feel something like that one day, like just the pure amount of elation and relief, and just that everything that you worked for, sacrificed, paid off. And I'm extremely grateful to the Geelong Footy Club for giving me a go, giving me a chance, and calling my name. And yeah, since then it's been a bit of a roller coaster, ups and downs all year. Pretty injured to start the year and stuff like that. So I'm just happy to be playing football at the moment. Really enjoying my time. Yeah, enjoying Geelong. I just wish the weather would warm up a little bit. It's a bit cold at the moment.
Look, it's never going to get that much better, unfortunately. So, but
It's a
buckle
bit
in,
tough.
buckle in.
Yeah, I know. I've been told.
So I mean, like even the nature of how that selection happened in the end. I mean, there's TV and film like drama around that where like it's they've had the car crash and then all of a sudden, boom, there you are. You just pop straight out, no dramas. Moments later, it worked out lucky for you. You've gone through in the snap of a finger. Really, you've gone through the lowest of lows and then suddenly the highest of highs back to back. So. Obviously, I think, like again, speaking for all Cats fans, I think we're all thrilled to have you. So we're glad that Hawthorn kind of passed on you. So
Yeah, I can imagine. Yeah.
So obviously you touched on the fact that there some knee dramas and those sort of things through that draft year as well, and missed the combine, some of those aspects as well. Does that at that point you're going, oh shit, like I mean, this is where they collect all this data. There's so much that's going on at this particular point, a lot of key metrics that get collected, and you, through no fault of your own, cannot participate in that. Are you sitting back going, like this might be it? Like I just can't. I'm gonna miss my opportunity simply because I just can't get there.
Yeah, a part of me was absolutely tearing myself to bits. I played in a prelim final in the under-18s for Norwood, and I had my knee so heavily strapped it could barely bend. I was trying my absolute hardest just to win that game of football and kind of blew it to pieces, my patella tendon. So, yeah, me being an 18-year-old who had no idea how to look after his body, no idea what was wrong with me, I just thought my knee was sore. I just generally just thought, oh, it'll get better with time. And tendons don't like that at all. They like continuous load and stuff like that. So I sat on my ass for 6 weeks and didn't do anything up until the combine, just thinking, oh, it'll get better. I knew I wasn't going to test pretty early. I just thought I'll try and smash all the psych and IQ tests and really just have a game plan for when I walk into each interview, how I'm going to attack it, and hopefully put a few moves on everyone. Some worked, some didn't. Yeah. But yeah, honestly, sitting in the stands on that last day, watching Matthias, Jacob Ryan, boys that I played state footy with all year test really well. Oh, part of my heart was breaking. I thought it was shattering. I sat in the stands with my diary and took notes and kind of just journaled the entire experience. And um, yeah, seeing all the recruiters around me, how intently they were looking at everybody on the court. Um,
And you couldn't be part of
I
it.
was like, yeah, and I wasn't a part of it. And then watching the boys run the 2K time trial, and I was just sitting on the sidelines cheering a run on. Yeah, I thought a part of me thought it wasn't going to happen. I thought it was every kid that has any hope of getting drafted in their draft year kind of has to do really well at the combine. And yeah, I didn't have that opportunity, which through no fault of my own, I just got got injured at the wrong time and didn't know how to prepare myself or look after my body. And Geelong, after taking me, put me through a pretty rigorous pre-season strength block to try and get my knees better. In turn, I've now have giant quads, so that's it's always a
It's
win.
a win, right?
Yeah, and then
Got drafted, got the quads.
Yeah, exactly right. And then I got a bit of a back thing once my knee had gotten all right, which kind of helped me out at the start of the season. We got a new physio coming, Daniel Jones, who worked absolute wonders. I put a lot of my year down to him. He helped me a lot with my running. He was basically my personal physio for 9 weeks, as he helped me get back to playing for that Coburg game. But yeah, before then it'd been pretty tough. It was 3 days a week, lifting 3 or 4 times a week, just trying to get my back strong, get my knees strong. And before our second bye, I felt like I was the best I ever felt. I was running really well, knees didn't hurt, back felt good. When I went from the bye, I probably didn't look after myself as best I should have. Took about a week off of running and lifting, and tendons don't like that. So we're currently working back through that previous program whilst I'm playing to try and get my knees and my back feeling really strong and healthy. And yeah, it's a constant week-to-week management thing, but that's all right. It's part of football. Every person from local footy to AFL has their niggles and sore spots every week. So yeah, we front up and we give it our all on Saturday. So yeah.
And you certainly don't learn a lot of these things when you're playing in the junior levels anyway. It's like the way you maintain your body and look after it, and the things that kind of fuel it and help support it. They're not really the main focus. A lot of the time, it's just flash your skills, and you kind of use the language for just try and dazzle people a little bit. So, and that tends to be the core of it for the most part. So
yeah, you just kind of if for real, like it's I've learned more about biology in my body in 6 months of being at the footy club than the whole time I was at school. So, thanks for all the physios for helping me learn about that, I guess.
Look, I'm a teacher professionally, and I work with some biology teachers. I'll make sure to pass on the fact that they need to do a bit of work on their curriculum just to get it anywhere near what an AFL program's doing. But I won't say it came from you. Oh
yeah, definitely.
After having been picked up, and obviously there's an adjustment that goes on there. You're packing up and moving as you've discussed. What was that initial adjustment like? Obviously, you joined at the same time as a few of the boys, and we actually spoke to Oscar Riccardi at first when very, very, very shortly after being picked up, and he was kind of discussing there was kind of the shared living situation. All of you went down to, I think it was Torquay Way, if I recall, there for a little while as well. What was that initial phase like as you're kind of getting to spend some time with the boys that you've all been picked up with, but of course then you're starting to gradually meet some of the established players. You finally get your time with Mitch Duncan, etc.
The first person I met from the footy club was Shannon Burns.
Yep.
He's our PDM for the younger fellas, and he picked me up in Adelaide, took me to Torquay House straight away. First teammate I met was a Shane Mullen, actually. Got off the plane, he was already there, and I remember seeing this big hulking bloke walk out of his room. I was like, oh my God, that guy's massive. And then from there, Ted Closey came down, Oscar Murdoch and Jai came down, and that first 2 weeks, it's just you're living on pure adrenaline. Everything's new. Every day at the club is a new adventure. You're learning what your routine looks like because you don't have one. You're just flying by the seat of your pants a lot. You're seeing all these guys walk around, even just like anyone. Like, it could be anyone. Just seeing Scotty in the building, you can get a little bit intimidated. I won't lie. Yeah, it was all a big learning curve to start with, and figuring out what works for you, what doesn't. Especially being injured, it was a little bit isolating to start with. You weren't really on the field trying to build anyone. But once I got back to training, it was great. And those first couple weeks and months were just, you're on such high alert all the time. You don't want to do anything that'll make you look silly, or you don't want to like kind of overstep any lines with any jokes or anything. So you kind of you're walking on eggshells a bit. But the longer I've been here, the more mates I become with everyone.
Yeah.
Comfortable and enjoying myself, and moving in with Flynn Kruger and James Willis soon will be really exciting. I really love those boys. They've been great for me. James being a fellow SA boy, and Flynn being a country boy, I get on really well with them. So I really do love it. But those first few weeks and months were high pressure, stressful. All of the words you can think.
Yeah, that pairing of the three of you, I'm sure, will be good for all of you. But in that period there, where like you're in Torquay and you're still learning everything at that point. I mean, obviously you were with all of the new faces as well. Were you finding that a lot of you had the same sorts of questions? Like, was there kind of like this almost nightly debrief on what you just saw and heard and what you learned from it? Like, did you find that there were questions that you had that in the end a lot of others were kind of thinking the same thing, or what was that sort of period like as you're all kind of learning together?
I think some of it was. I think there was a lot of yelling at each other in the kitchen, who was going to cook and if it was any good or not. But yeah, usual bachelor pad type stuff. Just a lot of yelling and screaming and a bit of a madhouse every now and then. But I think I was napping a lot of the time. I was pretty tired and exhausted. But
I was going to say the same thing.
Yeah, he definitely would have. Yeah, I think the questions we all had were all the same. I think some of us were more keen to ask them than others. I don't really shy away from asking questions. So sometimes, even in a group setting, I'd be like, "What does this mean?" And they're all talking about a system that we've never played before, like we have. And I'm just like, I have no idea what's going on right now. I'm so confused. I just need help. And then, learning from Shannon Neal and Gary Rowan was really helpful, because I had so many questions. I was so confused. And do I lead up? Do I not lead up? Do I hold space, or do I move out of the way, or how does the system work? And they were really, really helpful for me, especially learn to lean on coaches a lot. In junior level, you don't really lean on coaches like that, but now you lean on them for everything. The questions we all had were all the same, just different lines or different groups, or just trying to figure out what it means or how to be an AFL footballer, because from the outside it's very, very different to what it's like
for sure.
on the inside.
And so obviously, we've mentioned and joked about the Mitch situation a few times already, but once you arrived, and I mean, you're coming in as a forward line player, and you obviously just touched on Shannon Neal and Gary Rowan there as examples. Were they some of the people that you really, of the established players, and certainly those that are kind of playing up your end of the ground at the time, were those the sort of people that you really kind of clicked with straight away and gravitated towards? Or was there someone that really took you under their wing in particular?
Oh, Gary's been great. I think Gaz has been unbelievable for me. As a bloke who left home as well, went to Sydney, he understands how I'm feeling. Shannon was the exact same. I remember I was feeling pretty down one day, and Shannon just came up to me and gave me a hug in the gym. They understand what it's like, and I'm eternally grateful for everything they've done for me just so far, just this year. They've been unbelievable for me, especially. I think Hawk of late been really giving me a lot of help. And I think down back, I ask a lot of questions of Collar and those fellas of late. But early I gravitated, like all the young fellas do everything together, so you kind of just group together. But of the older lads, probably Gary, or I really love Cam Guthrie. He's an unbelievable human, awesome person to talk to, and a really smart fella, and I get along with him really well. So of those guys, probably them.
That's awesome to hear. So then let's kind of fast track towards to game one, and obviously you touched on before, it was a game against Coburg there. And what was that moment like for you, where you finally it's not quite the AFL level yet, but again, we're all hoping that's not too far away for you. But what was that first game like? You're getting the Geelong colours on, you're you're gearing up to play with a lot of the boys for the first time.
Yeah, I'm a nervous operator, very nervous operator. I cannot tell you how sick I felt before the game. I was so nervous. I was pacing around this change rooms. I was all the normal breathing and exercise and stuff I did before game just wasn't working. I was so nervous. I remember running out on the ground at Coburg. Sun was shining. I was like, right, it's gonna be okay. It's gonna be okay. Walking to my position in the forward pocket, and I was like, okay, let's just get through this. Hit the first footy, and I didn't touch the footy for the first 5 minutes. I was kind of just running around, and I've got a Coburg player dropped the ball, and I picked it up, scooped up out of the air, and I hit Teddy closely in the goal square for a goal. And I remember being like, oh, this isn't too bad, is it? Like, it was a pretty good kick, I think. And then I had a really good first half, and by the end of the game, my sea legs weren't there, and my match fitness let me down a bit. But that first game, it was something I'll never forget. We did not play very well as a team. I think we kicked like 25 behinds or something. It made it really hard for ourselves. But I think sharing that with Clarkey, Teddy, Oscar Riccardi, the Sheen, it's something I'll remember for a long, long time. Hopefully I get to play a lot of football with those fellas in the coming years. Looking back, it's one of the more prouder days I've had.
Yeah, I guess for context for people, there was 17 disposals there and 6 marks. I'm bringing up all the stats here. 17 disposals, 6 marks. You had the shot on goal there, which unfortunately was behind. But the following week, kicked 2. And I mean, we talk about you. Obviously, you kind of playing the forward role and things have kind of transitioned a little bit more recently. But it's been a very steady output through that period there, where 1 to 2 goals a game outside of that first match. It had been a really steady output. So I mean, that first goal, I guess, the following week, what was that like for you to put one on the board and just kind of, I guess, settle into the role that little bit more? Because I would imagine maybe that there's always a little bit of down talk maybe after a quieter game on the scoreboard side, but at the end of the day, a forward's keen to kick a goal whenever the opportunity arises. So the fact you didn't get one in the first week, did that bother you a little bit, and how'd it go the following week when you then got the first and ended up getting 2?
It was great to be a meme for a week. It was really fun. The boys really got around it. I think I had every single person on my phone send the video to me, and that was really fun. But I think that first goal was more of a relief. I just didn't want to miss it again.
That's fair.
It was more of a just you have to kick this one now. You can't be doing anything silly. I think that streak of 1 or 2 goals for 5 or 6 games was really good. I got on the back of a lot of young skipper Angus Burns' production, his ability to take the best defender and left me with the second best defender a lot of the time, or Ollie Dempsey taking a better defender. And it was a lot of hard work, and I really did enjoy it. I love playing forward. Like, I love being up that end of the ground. About 3 or 4 down weeks in a row. Just not got a lot of production, a lot of impact. Played a half down back against Casey on Ben Brown and did it right. So we just thought, if it's just for a month, just to freshen up, do something different, and then hopefully back end of the year hopefully swing back forward, and you'd be really impactful with a different mindset, different view and perspective on things. But yeah, those first couple of weeks were really exciting. I was just loving being back and playing football.
So I guess, because we've alluded to this kind of transition in the backline briefly, I guess in your eyes, is it mostly, you've obviously mentioned the freshening up component, but also is there a little bit of like an educational component to this thing as well, in terms of, leading patterns and those, when all of a sudden you've got to play on someone, and Ben Brown's obviously a fantastic example, who's kicked hundreds of goals already in the AFL, to have to kind of tail him, and then obviously stand there and watch when he has a fairly lengthy walk up for goal. I'll ask you about that in a sec too. But is it a lot about education as well, in terms of learning some of those leading patterns and the way you can move and when there's the right time to go, etc.?
Oh yeah, completely. I completely agree with the idea that the coaches had, and they said, look, we're going to swing you forward for a month and just learn. We want you to learn how to be a defender, but also learn how to just play implement what other forwards are doing into your game when we do throw you back there. I've already learnt heaps. I can't wait to start implementing that. But also, I'm really enjoying my time down back.
Good.
Just the one game in Sydney, and it was a really eye-opening experience. I had a lot of fun. Didn't accumulate heaps of the footy, but I thought I did it right. I thought I had a lot of fun, and Dan Caperon and Bailey Vanderhoover were awesome key backs down there for us. And with Oscar Murdoch being out at the moment, I'm kind of feeling his role. Hopefully, once he comes back, will be a pretty potent back line. There might even be room for me to go back forward, but we're really trying to impact the play or off fullback, half-back line, use my kick to try and get it over the defence, get it out the back for our runners to get onto, or even just slice them up through the inside. So I think, my weapon's my kick at the moment off the half-back line. We're going to really try and implement and impact that with that over the next couple games.
Just to, I guess, excite the Cats fans a little bit who maybe aren't aware of necessarily that kick that you've got. How far can you clear with it with a pretty stock standard shot? And feel free to let us know how far you can roost a torp too if you want. But
see, I'm not much of a torp person, to be honest. I'll give it a roost, but I don't think I get the same clearance. It's different. Kicking for goal,
the different types of kicks.
It's a very, very different kick. I was saying this the other day to someone. Max Holmes was actually talking to me about it after training once, and he's had a few long bombs this year. It's more of a timing thing than actually need to kick it hard. If you want to kick the ball hard and truly, but if you just time it right, it'll sail properly. And I'd probably say I'd be happy if the man's on the 50 or 52 or 53. I'd probably go back. I didn't have one the other day. So I'll probably kick it 55, 56, 57 metres. On the run, it's a bit different. I had one out of fullback against Sydney on the weekend. I kicked it to the wing, so I don't know how far that is. It's probably not as far as I think.
It's circumstances. Yeah, there's a circumstantial component to the whole thing.
I might bump that number up a little bit, but I'd probably say on the run, if I hit it really nicely, probably about 60.
Very nice.
But I've always been able to kick the ball far, which helps. And on the torp, I don't know, if it's not going way out to the right,
flush it.
I don't know. Yeah, I'm not Reg Tui. I'll leave them to Reg. For sure.
How often does he try and launch him at training? Does he make sure to get out there and have a crack pretty often, or?
All the time. There wouldn't be a training that's gone by this year where him and a couple others haven't just launched torps for the sake of doing it.
Good. He's
unbelievable at it, actually. He gets so much hang time. Just sits up there, and Gary Rowan's really good at it as well, actually.
It's just a shame for Gary that he's typically having a shot at goal, and it's not circumstances a little bit different again. And I guess we touched on the fact that you played against Ben Brown there, and so standing on the mark when he's having one of those fairly lengthy lead-up shots for goal, what's it like having to stand on the other side of that and wait?
So he had I wasn't playing on him at the time. I'd just come on the ground, and he'd taken a mark. I'd gotten a free kick, and I was running onto the ground, so someone was already on the mark. So I ran the whole fullback and was standing on the line. And it's just an eternity. He goes back to his run up, and then it's just like, all right, I'm going to be sitting here for 4 minutes before he kicks this. And eventually he gets in, he kicks it, and he kicks a goal. And I'm like, oh, shit.
I mean, it works for him, but...
Like you do what works. Like, honestly, whatever works for you, there's no point changing it. So, yeah, look, it was pretty long, but... It is what it is. He's been doing it for a long, long time.
Yeah, and it works pretty well for him. I just can't imagine what it's like to be the person on the mark where, like, normally everyone else, 30 seconds and they're moving, unless apparently Paddy Dangerfield and you're only allowed 20, and then that's it. The whistle goes off. But we'll leave that alone. Like everyone, you kind of know the timing. Okay, this person, they're gonna start trotting in from the I guess the standard distance there. You can kind of, if you're on the mark, you start flailing your arms around, or if you're Reg, you turn around, and whatever the case happens to be. But with someone like Ben Brown, you feel like you've exhausted all of that, and he's still only a quarter of the way through his walk-up. So,
yeah, I think it's much more of a just hold it right until the end. But his run-up is so, like, the same the entire way in. You never even get a, hint of where he's
when the momentum's coming, he's just trotting up. Yeah,
he's just trotting up, and all of a sudden he's kicked it, and you're like, oh, just wave my arms around. But yeah, no, like Brent's great. I had a chat to him after the game and just we had to talk to him for like 5-10 minutes actually, just getting pointers off him, and no, he's a great fella. I had a really
Good to hear.
really interesting follow him around. Yeah.
That's awesome. And so I guess as the year continues to play out now, we've already touched on the fact that both teams, obviously the AFL and the VFL team, are just lingering outside of the top half of the ladder at the moment, and so the chase is on. Feeling pretty good about those prospects at this particular stage for both sides.
I think both sides have we've got a nice run home. Really excited about what the draw looks like. We've got a lot of games at home, and would have tough to beat both teams at home. So we're really excited with what it looks like. Boys are getting healthy, which is even better.
Yeah.
It's really exciting. I think the AFL boys really look to turn the screws on North and then have a really big game against Essendon next Saturday. So that'll be a huge one for us to hopefully win. That will go a long way to us getting in and hopefully pushing up top of the ladder, hopefully. And then for us in the VFL, it's just about continually just trying to grind out these games of footy. I don't think we've won an easy game of football all year. Probably reflects our percentage a lot. We grind out games of football from bell to bell. So I think it'll just be continuing to crack in every contest, every quarter, not giving up. I think that's a real testament to our team at the moment, is we don't ever give in. We're always going from bell to bell. So I'm really excited. Only a half game out, which is almost a win. Is a good thing. If we get a couple on the trot, it puts us above some teams. So we're really excited to go against North Twos and the seniors at North this week.
Yeah, fingers crossed. Hopefully it all goes well. How are you adjusting to the fan component? Because of course, when you're playing juniors, of course, there'll be you'll have your cheers and support from friends and family and those sort of things. But now you've got tens of thousands of Geelong supporters. On any given week, you have open training sessions, and they're there. You're signing autographs. How have you adjusted to that sort of things? And I will also shout out that I was just chatting to Ben before the show, and he did want to make sure that he acknowledged the little bit of a cult hero status you've got. And in particular for him, he said, and I'll quote: "Anyone who wears short sleeves over a long sleeve and pulls their socks up is a cult hero to me." So, few bigger fans of yours than I think Ben from the Hoop Show. So, but how are you adjusting
awesome.
to that side of things anyway?
I haven't played in front of 10,000 yet. I've been lucky enough to be in the players' box a couple times for these really big crowds. It's really cool. It's the AFL guys, supporters especially, are actually amazing. We got one of the best crowds going around. And then the AFL, we've been lucky to get a couple hundred out to our games, and it's a good atmosphere. It was a really good atmosphere up in Sydney actually, by the curtain raiser. A lot of people rolling in. The fan stuff, it is what it is. I really enjoy it. For the first time ever yesterday, I saw a real Phoenix Foster number 19. Usually they're Narc or...
Oh, it's like a holdover from someone else.
Yeah, but no, this was a real Phoenix Foster 19, and it was the first one I've ever seen. So made sure I got a photo, actually. I was like, that's just the coolest thing I've ever seen. And it was like, it's cool, and open trainings are great. I love seeing the little kids, especially school holidays. I miss my own school holidays, to be honest. It's great. Like I love it. Our fans are awesome. Like, we couldn't give enough credit to them rolling out. Like, there was an absolute huge amount in Sydney over the weekend. It was probably 50-50, I think. Like, we was just getting just as much cheers as boos up there. So we love our fans, and I love it. Like, they're the best, so I can't complain at all.
Look, as long as you're not finding yourself booed like the Australian Test team, then you'll be fine going forward. So
let's not talk about
that.
Yeah,
that's a whole can of worms, that particular one at the moment. But I'm glad to hear that that adjustment's been good, and that those fan interactions are positive, and also awesome that you've got your own genuine number 19 that's popped up, because of course without necessarily the AFL games on the board yet, sometimes it can, especially for the little kids and those sort of things, they're naturally going to gravitate to the more known commodity. But to have grabbed one at this early stage that's a big tick, I say.
Oh, it was unbelievable. It's the coolest thing ever, actually. I won't even hide how just excited I was. I just squealed like a girl. I was like, oh my god.
You're here for me?
Yeah, I was like, you know who I am? Like, when kids say my actual name now, I'm like, this is a joke. Nobody knows who I am. Everyone's, then Danger walks past, and everyone's like, Danger, Danger. Everyone just flocks over there. I'm like, yep, all right, I haven't made it yet. It's all right.
Still on the
it's
way
all
up.
good.
Yeah, you got plenty of time.
There. Still getting there. But no, it was really cool. Went home and told my mum. She thought it was cool. My little brother didn't think it was that cool, but that's all right. It's all good.
He just hasn't learned to appreciate these sorts of things yet. So
not yet at all.
So I guess going forward now, we've touched on the on-field side of things, but for you in terms of how the year's shaping up from here, you were talking about obviously there's a move going on for you. There's quite a few different things at play for you at this particular point in time. But as we trend towards the back end of the season and then you'll have best and fairest and those sort of things, like what's the end of the year got in store for you? Is it just really maintenance? What's kind of the plan for you in terms of the rest of the year, on field and off?
On field, just trying to get through the year. Just keep trying to be as consistent as I can, get my body nice and strong, and then once the season's done, I'll head home back to SA, and then it'll be pretty constant. I won't take much time off. My body just needs to keep working. At this stage, it doesn't really respond well to little breaks. So yeah, it'll be a lot of continuous work. We'll probably really enjoy my break in October, November. I'll have some friends on uni holidays, so I'll be able to catch up with them, and it'll be really good to be home. Then in terms of anything else, I've got some friends up on the Gold Coast I might go and see, but I don't know yet. It'll be all kind of planned pretty quickly, I think. I'm just really focused on finishing off the year really strong.
Yep.
Continuing to learn, hopefully start growing some arm muscles. It'd be nice. Just really enjoying my time and just continually learning. That'll be the biggest thing.
Do you have any particular KPIs that you personally or working with the club are aiming to hit before the season is out, though? Obviously, there's that consistency side of things, but that's I guess potentially a harder one to measure specifically. Is there anything like any specific points that you're really trying to hit at this point?
I think we've been really trying to grow my mental side, where I'm a bloke who wears my heart on my sleeve, can get beaten down pretty easily. So I think it's continually just trying to build my mental ability, capacity to just be resilient. I think that's one of my biggest KPIs is just as long as if I'm playing and impacting well, I'm just staying focused, concentrated, not staying present during the game. That's a really big KPI for me, and I think just continually just having an impact, whether it's across halfback or if it's across centre forward. It's just continually just putting myself in positions to impact the play, whether it's a big fist or a mark or on the ground. It's not necessarily statistics based at all. Love seeing myself get good running totals. That's usually a good indicator that I'm in the game. I'm running a lot. But yeah, just continually working on the mental and just the ability to stay focused and in games for longer.
Yeah, awesome, and I'm sure that'll all come with time as well. So, as we start to wind things up, I must firstly begin by saying thank you so much for coming on the show and sharing this journey so far, and certainly looking forward to having a chat down the line as well when there's some future experiences up your sleeve. But before we completely put a bow on this episode, just a few kind of top level sort of questions, lighter ones now to wrap things up. You touched on before, you've studied the Cats a little bit over the years. Who's the greatest Cat that you've ever seen play in your eyes?
Well, I've ever seen play. I think it's Gary Ablett Jr. I was lucky enough to just remember a little bit of before he left, and so I think that's in my eyes who it is.
That's it.
I think I was born in 2004. I can only remember so much.
Don't blame me.
Yeah, I remember it. But I think there's been many, like heaps. But I think the greatest was Gaz Jr. I think.
Well, to follow that one up, and maybe given your last answer, this makes this one a little bit clearer cut for me. But the next question is the schoolyard pick style. You've got Gary Jr. and Gary Senior standing in front of you. You're building a team. Who are you going to pick?
Oh, that's brutal. I'm a forward, so I'm going to get Gary to kick it to me. Young Gaz Jr. Hopefully he can kick it to me.
Yeah, you need to keep yourself in the game, and if Gary Senior's there, they're just going to bomb it to him, right?
Yeah, obviously. So a bit of dynamic duo, I think, with Junior. I think that'll be the play, I think.
And certainly the mids with silver platter service can make the tools look even better again. So if he can help out with that, it's even better.
Yes, it definitely always helps.
Now, obviously, you are one of the younger players at the club, and there's a crew of players, a fleet of other younger players there around you as well. For those watching and listening who perhaps haven't necessarily seen a huge amount of that new generation that is inclusive of you, who else should be Cats fans be keeping a bit of an eye out for in terms of those who are really impressing and would be pushing for those spots in the top level soon enough?
I think we've already seen a sheen, but it's just genuinely amazing. That bloke, he came in and was no better than anybody else, and now he's got AFL game experience. Like that kid's going to be a stud, like an actual star in this
What is
league.
it about him? Because it's clicked so quickly, and obviously the game was so foreign less than 12 months ago.
I think being a little bit older, just a bit of life experience. He knows how to handle himself. He's an ultimate professional. He is more driven and works harder than basically anyone because he knows he has to, especially at the start. And I think Reg said it, or Mark O'Connor said it earlier this year that, when they come in, they have to do more work than others, and it really pays dividends for them. I think Ted Closey is going to be a star. I think he's one of the hardest nuts I've ever seen, ever. Like, just throws himself on the bottom of packs and bounces back up and goes again. Obviously, everyone's seen Ollie Dempsey, but that kid's going to be a star as well. He's unbelievable what he can do with the football, just how creative he is. We've seen Mitch Nevitt this year been playing in the centre in the VFL of late and absolutely dominating out the middle. We've seen a lot of Tanner Bruin, but just how talented that bloke is. Give him a few more years and he's going to be one of the best in the league, I think.
It's awesome to hear.
But I definitely think Shannon Neal's right there. It's not going to be long for Shannon until he's playing senior footy. He does play the same position as me, but Shannon's going to be a star. He works really hard. He's an elite athlete, and he's a really good footy brain. He's been awesome for me. So there's a lot of us coming up. I'm not going to count DK as young anymore. He's already won a premiership and he's doing all his own things in the league. So,
he's getting too greedy if he claims that as well.
Yeah, exactly, 100%. So, there's a few coming up. I think fans should be really excited about what the next couple of years look like. I didn't even mention Ollie Henry. So, it's really exciting.
No, I look forward to a day where there's a 1-2 punch of you and Shannon Neal there in the forward 50 on the AFL stage, and it'll be great to see. As much as we love him, Hawk and Jez can't be there forever. So, though Hawk seems to be doing his best to try and stay there forever, to his great credit. But
it's unbelievable that man's doing. 100%.
Still that fine wine adage works perfectly for him. He's just getting better and better and better with age. But and I guess the last question, but you've already basically answered this anyway. We usually ask the question of like current favourite player, but we all know that's Mitch Duncan. So
we had to go outside the Cats. I grew up next to Harrison Petty. That's my next door neighbour. So it was. I'll always love watching H play. He's been he doesn't know it, but he's been a real role model for me. Someone I've really looked up to. When he got drafted, I was like, he's from the same town as me. He lived next door. I grew up playing footy and cricket with him. Maybe it's possible.
Maybe I can do it. Yeah.
And seeing him win a flag in 21, as painful as that might have been for Cats fans, I was very excited. I was very happy for him. Watching him play, he's probably one of up there. And I'm probably going to get killed for my Mitch Duncan take, but I always have to deal with that at the footy club.
That's all right. We'll make sure to pass it on to him later on, and we'll just see how it works out for him. Apologies if it gets you in any shit.
Yeah, too late now.
So, as I've already said, thank you so much for coming on the show and sharing this journey so far. It's been a really fascinating one, and I know, like anecdotally from what I see online and even obviously conversations with Ben, there's such a great love for you and what you're already doing with the Cats. So we're all really, really hopeful that it's not too long before that debut at the top level comes, and when that opportunity does come, that you can grab it with both hands and clunk a few goals, presumably from that forward line when the opportunity arises.
Thank you so much. I don't know why everyone's getting around me. There's a lot of better players than me in the league, but No, I really do appreciate it. Everybody who's been really kind and said some really nice things, and thank you so much for having me on. I really do appreciate it.
Not a problem. And Cats fans, if you haven't already done so, please make sure to subscribe to The Hoop Show on YouTube, to Behind the Play if you want the audio version on podcast feeds. And otherwise, thank you very much as always. Again, Phoenix, thanks so much for coming on the show. And Cats fans, remain Geelong strong. I'll see you next week.